Hey everybody, welcome back to Cooking with Reagan. It's fall and that calls for soup season. Today we'll be making chicken noodle soup. It's a super quick and easy recipe. Alrighty, we have all of our ingredients that we'll be using today. We have 2 things of chicken breast right here, a bag of shredded carrots. You can also get fresh carrots, but I was going to shred them anyway, so it just made more sense to get shredded carrots. 2 things of chicken broth. These are specifically 32 fluid ounces of chicken broth. 2 medium-sized yellow onions, a thing of garlic. We won't use all of it. About 5 to 6 cloves. Egg noodles, that's especially important. That's what makes this soup recipe very good. Some celery hearts. We won't use all of them. Just a few stalks from the celery hearts. And then we have black pepper, onion powder, and salt. We will be using the black pepper and salt to be coating and seasoning our chicken with, and then throughout the soup we'll be tasting and adding more seasonings, specifically these 3 when needed. Alrighty, now that you have all of our ingredients out and ready, we're going to start by grabbing our pot. Today I'll be using my Dutch oven to cook the chicken in because it's going to add flavor, all the juices from the chicken to the soup. But other than that, we're going to start with seasoning our chicken breast. Alrighty, and then you will need a pot for today's recipe because we are making soup. I will be using my Dutch oven today to cook both the chicken in as well as the rest of the soup. So it's a 1-pot meal. It's going to be super simple and easy. Let's get started. Alrighty, we're going to start by seasoning our chicken today. All I'm using, you can honestly use whatever seasonings you like, but I want to keep it simple because we want all of our flavor to come from the cooked chicken as well as the chicken broth. So I'm just going to keep it simple with some salt and pepper. This is the salt I'm using. Just going to take a little bit, cover the first side, grab the pepper. Honestly, this recipe is from my grandma, and she makes her soup very pepper heavy, and I really like that. So that's the first side, and you're actually just going to repeat it on the opposite side, and I'll go ahead and show you guys when I'm done what your final chicken breast should look like. Alrighty, this is what your chicken breast should look like. Both sides are seasoned, so now we're gonna preheat our pan or pot or whatever, just turning the stove on. Throw some oil in there so that way we can get our chicken cooked. Alrighty, and then most of our video is actually gonna be from this angle because we are cooking everything in our pot today. So we're gonna start off by just throwing some oil in. I just have a little bottle of oil. Just gonna throw some in right there. You want enough to cover the bottom so that way when we throw our chicken in, and you want it also to get hot enough so when we throw our chicken in, it's just gonna sear. And we're just gonna let the chicken sit there, cook on both sides. I'll go ahead and tell you guys how to do that when we get to that portion of the video. But for now, we're just gonna let this heat up and wait. Alrighty, now that our pot is hot enough, we're just gonna take our chicken and throw it in. And we're just gonna leave it there and cook on each side for 4 to 5 minutes or until the internal temperature is 165 degrees. And now that the chicken is cooking, I'm gonna use the same cutting board to cut up our onion and stuff. So while the chicken's cooking on the first side, I'm gonna go ahead and wash this and then I'll be right back. This is what our chicken's starting to look like. As you see on the side right there, it's starting to become white. That means the heat's cooking it through. So at this point, I just like to flip it so that way we can get the other side starting to sear. Now that the chicken breasts are flipped, let it cook for another 4 to 5 minutes on the other side, and we'll see where it's at. Alrighty, now that our chicken is cooking on the other side, we're going to start cutting up our vegetables to go into the soup, and we're gonna go ahead and start off with the garlic. I had already had one open, so I'm gonna take off about 4 or 5 cloves. Garlic will also work, jarred garlic. I don't have any, but measure with your heart. If you like garlic, put more garlic in. If you don't like garlic, you can honestly skip this step. I just like garlic, so I will be adding garlic in to my soup. I'm gonna use about 4 cloves, about yay big. I have one that's a little bit bigger, one that's a little bit smaller. It really doesn't matter. Again, if you will know if you like garlic, add as you will. So we're gonna go ahead and mince this up, and then we'll throw it in the pot. Alrighty, this is what our garlic should look like. They're not crazy small, but they're also not super big. We're gonna go ahead and put it in that little ceramic container. So we're putting our garlic in a ceramic container because we don't want our garlic to burn. We will be cooking our onion, carrot, and celery all together because they will be fairly the same size and cook very similar in time. But our garlic, however, is not gonna take that long to cook, maybe a minute. So we don't wanna throw it in with our other vegetables because it will burn and ultimately ruin the taste of our soup. So this is what our chicken looks like. It has a phenomenal crust on it and great color. Now, at this point in time, we are gonna put it aside on a separate plate. We're gonna do this because at this point, it is a one-pot meal. And so we need to remove our chicken so that way we can cook all of our vegetables through, throw our chicken broth in. We're gonna let the chicken sit on a plate, finish the last minutes of cooking all the way through. Even though we're removing it from the heat is still conducting within inside the meat. So we're gonna set it aside and then we'll get started chopping up all of our vegetables. Alrighty, in addition to this, we have set it aside, and at this point we want to turn our Dutch oven or pot off because we don't need the heat still going. It's going to burn the excess oil that's in there as well as all the flavors that are still in the pot. We have our garlic in our container. We'll be using 2 yellow onions today, so we'll be cutting those up on our cutting board. In front of me, you might see that I have a wet paper towel. You might be asking yourself, why? So glad you asked. When you cut off the root of an onion, as you know, your eyes start to water. Now, when we cut off this root, like so, you're gonna place it face down on here because the root is looking for moisture to attract because of the onion. So putting it face down prevents your eyes from watering. Not completely. I mean, sometimes they'll still water, but most of the time it shouldn't water, if at all, or if it does, it won't hurt your eyes just as much. So we're gonna just dice this up super quickly. So there's many ways to cut an onion. I cut my onion, I cut off both ends, place them down on the paper towel. I'll go ahead and move that. Then I'm gonna cut it in half. This way, cutting it in half makes it a lot easier to peel that outside casing off. Gonna peel it. Just set it aside. We're gonna do it on the other side. Now that we have these both in little halves, I like to cut my onion in this way, about yay big. Luckily, onion kind of cooks evenly all the way through, so try to make your slices as even as possible. If one's a little bit bigger than the other, that's totally fine. It'll still cook. But we're gonna continue slicing our onion, and then we're just gonna cut it the opposite way. So as you see, this is what our onion looks like, all in little strips if we pull them apart. Now we're just gonna cut it this way, and this will make our onion diced. As you can see, this is our final onion. It's all kind of put together still, but once we put it in the pot, they'll all separate. But should have very fine dices, about this big. So this is my bad, but you will need a bowl because my cutting board is not super big. So we're just gonna place all of this in the bowl, set it aside, and then we'll go ahead and finish our second onion, and then we'll move on to our celery. Now that we have our bowl, oh, you guys can't see that. Our bowl of onions, we're just gonna set that aside along with our garlic. Now we're gonna get started on our celery. We're going to be using most of our celery, however, we're just going to cut off about this much to just cut off that root that's there. We don't need that in our soup at all. Now that we cut all those off, throw it in our trash. Now you're going to have your stalk. What we're going to do is cut it directly down the middle, and then we're just going to dice it this way. I'll go ahead and show you our final product. Alrighty, this is our final chopped, all of them up. They're fairly decent sized. If they're a little bit bigger, you might want to cut like the bigger pieces in half, but they should all be somewhat in the same size so they all cook evenly. Alrighty, and since all of our vegetables are cut up, we're gonna turn our stove back on medium-high heat. We're not gonna add any more oil for now because there's gonna be excess oil from the chicken that we cooked with that we're just gonna use. Now, If it seems to be too dry or that we need more oil, we'll add accordingly. But for now, we're not gonna add any more oil to our pot. Now, I got a 10-ounce bag of shredded carrot. I'm probably gonna use about 5 ounces or half the bag to start and see where we're at if we need to add more or less. I just added to our mountain of celery, but this is about how much carrot. Like I said, we used about half the bag. Alrighty, we're gonna get started on our vegetables. At first, we're just gonna throw in our onion. You know it's a good temperature when you hear a sizzle when we put it in. We're just gonna let that cook down a little bit. We'll just use the same tongs. Swirl it around in the oil because we want them to get covered in it. Then once those cook down a little bit, we will then throw in our carrot and our celery. So at this point, this is what our onions look like. This beautiful brown color. They're cooked through a little bit. All that color is from our chicken, and that's what's gonna add flavor to our soup. So at this point, when your onions start to look like this, they've been on the heat for about 2 minutes or so, we're gonna add our carrots and celery into our pot. This is what it should look like after adding it in. So now that our vegetables are all in the pot together, we're gonna stir it around a little bit. I'm finding that it's just a tad bit dry. So at this point, I'm just gonna add a little bit more oil, not a whole lot. We don't want this soup to be crazy oily. I'm also gonna add just a little bit more salt, not measuring, just sprinkling some. Again, the good thing about cooking is that it's all seasoned to taste. So if you like a little bit more pepper than the average person, add more pepper. If you're more of a salt gal or guy, add a little bit more salt. This soup is made for you, so at that point, cater to what you like. So now that our vegetables have been cooking for a little bit, they've all sauteed down, have some great flavor and color on them. Again, we don't want to burn these, so if you find that your stove is cooking them a little too fast and a little too dark, turn that heat down. It'll all be okay. This is gonna be a good time to start adding our garlic in. We're just gonna throw all of that in, mix that up a little bit. Again, keep an eye out for the garlic, and if your heat is too high, we don't want our garlic to turn really brown, and we really don't want it to turn black. At that point, you've burnt your garlic. It'll still be okay, but we want to avoid that because it will alter the taste of our soup. So we're gonna let that cook down a little bit, and I will show you guys when it's done. This is what our pot of soup looks like. All of our vegetables have a beautiful color on them. At this point, our garlic has been cooked, so we're gonna throw our chicken broth in. Alrighty, I'm just using, I'm gonna start with a 32 ounce of chicken broth. We're just gonna pour that in. We have our stove on a good setting when I pour this in. You don't hear a shh, because at that point it's just gonna start burning our broth, and we don't want that. I'm now gonna throw our second one in. Try and pour it on the sides a little bit to get all those vegetables off the side. I got my chicken broth from Trader Joe's. You can also use a chicken bouillon. It's a little powder or cubes that you get from the store. You just mix it with some boiling water. That also works. We're gonna let that sit for a few minutes, mix it, have those flavors come together. At this point, we're gonna start shredding our chicken to throw in. Alrighty, we have our chicken breast. We started cutting into cubes. You can slice this, shred it. You can really do as you please. It's your soup. I'm gonna do chunks just because I feel like it. So we're just gonna chunk this all up, and we'll get back when we're done. Alrighty, now that we have all of our chicken cut up, we're just gonna let it sit there for a second. We're gonna turn our heat back up to high. We're gonna wanna get our chicken broth boiling because at this point we're just gonna throw our noodles in. Like I said, very important to get egg noodles. It's what makes this recipe, I feel like, better than others. It's what my grandma always uses. We're gonna throw it into the broth and let it cook in the broth. So at this point, before putting our noodles in and letting them cook, I recommend grabbing your trusty spoon and just tasting your broth. This would be a very good time if you think it needs anything: salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, whatever, throw it in. I did bring out onion powder. I don't think I'll be adding any more because there's a lot of onion flavor. But we're just gonna wait till this comes to a slight boil, and then we'll put our noodles in. While our broth is boiling, this would be a really good time if you want super easy cleanup after eating. Do your dishes. I hate doing dishes, never really enjoyed them, but good thing the Lord created a dishwasher. So we're just gonna throw everything in the dishwasher. Broth has come to a slight boil, so I'm just gonna throw in some egg noodles. I like and prefer my chicken noodle soup to be a little noodle heavy. I like a lot of noodles. So pour with what your heart desires. Again, don't put too much to start because your noodles are gonna expand in it and you do want broth. So keep that in mind. We're gonna wait till that cooks. Mine says about 8 to 9 minutes. I'm gonna throw our lid on, let that cook for 8 to 9 minutes, and then we will throw our chicken in and taste it and enjoy it. So it's been 8 to 9 minutes, and this is what our soup is looking like. It's not super thick, but noodle heavy, just like I like it. I'm gonna go ahead and try this, see if it needs any more seasoning and if our noodles need to cook a little bit longer. Okay, it just needs a few more minutes cooking, but in this time, as it's finishing off, we're gonna go ahead and put our chicken in the pot. This might be one of the easiest steps in the recipe. Just make sure it doesn't splash back at you because our soup is hot. So just like that, and then we'll go ahead and mix it in. And at that point, it's gonna add more flavor because of the salt and pepper that's on our chicken. And like I said, if you like your soup chicken heavy, which I don't really like it like that, I like my noodle heavy, add more chicken. I just used 2 chicken breasts today, as you saw, but feel free to add as much as you want. Good thing about this soup, and I feel like soup in general, it's very forgiving. So add what you like and it'll be good. So just like that, our soup is done. I'm hungry. I'm sure you guys are hungry if you're making this. I'm just gonna put a little bit in a bowl. Oh, this would be so good. Put a little bit of that broth. Alrighty, let's taste it. Also at this point, if you did scoop yourself a bowl already, it is gonna continue cooking if it's on the heat. I suggest putting the lid on, or if you didn't even use a lid, that's fine. But removing it from the heat because it is still gonna cook because of the heat, but we don't want it to cook more than it needs to when it's on the residual heat from the burner. Alrighty, we have dinner in hand, drink in hand. I'm hungry. I'm sure if you guys are watching this, you're hungry as well. You might be asking yourself, is it even good? Let's try it. I have the perfect bite, a little bit of everything in there. Carrot, celery, onion, chicken, noodle, broth. Very good. Very good flavor from the chicken that we had from the chicken broth, as well as the spices from the chicken. Just enough salt in there, not too salty. And just like that, you guys made chicken noodle soup. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.